Welcome, everyone, to the Politics of Survival. I'm your host, Tara Reade, and I have a very special guest whom I really enjoy. I've been on his show, and I follow his work and share it quite often, so you'll recognize the name Niko House. Niko, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me on, Ty. I appreciate it.
Well, and you had me on your show at a time when it was kind of, I was persona non grata to have on anybody's show because I was getting actively attacked by a political machine. Yeah. So I appreciate that.
That was an eye-opening. You actually helped me. I mean, your story rather, like, it really showed me how. Funny story, right? AOC. Because that was the one for me. I mean, Tulsi too, because seeing the way Tulsi was treated, I knew, like, okay, these women on the quote unquote the progressive left aren't as progressive or pro women as they had appeared to be in the past. Because I would at least try to give them the benefit of the doubt, even if I didn't trust them necessarily politically. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, okay, so this situation with you comes up, and AOC gets directly questioned, and I was like, AOC had been being defended. Because she was being defended by proxy to attack Tulsi, or no, she was being defended to attack Tulsi by proxy at the time. It was a whole thing because Tulsi was trying to do her environmental. Oh my goodness, I can't remember.
Oh, the climate, yeah.
Yes, which was the best climate legislation literally that had ever been put together. It had like 200 endorsements. It's ridiculous. We've never seen anything like it, and with AOC being in the climate change committee at the time, everybody assumed they were going to work together. Tulsi had tried to work with her, and AOC ghosted her. And it had started attacking her in various ways, like with the impeachment, which actually turned, Tulsi abstained because she was like, I think that these people are actually full of shit, and that's not what we should be impeaching for. We should be impeaching him for the things that he actually did, not the bullshit. And people didn't want to hear it though, because they're like, oh, well, no, you support Tulsi. I'm like, well, no, this is just bad. So when your situation comes into the picture and she gets directly asked about it, like, she basically said, screw you in front of the world, like, and defended Biden.
Yeah, she gave a word salad. Like, the first time she said it should be investigated before he was a nominee. And then she said, once he was a nominee, then all of a sudden, she was. Oh, she lied. She lied in the NPR interview. I remember. I actually wrote about it in the article. I was like, she said, she was asked directly, like, well, what do you think about the Tara Reade situation and like her not voting for the Democratic Party ever again? And she literally says, well, Tara never said she wasn't going to vote for Biden. And I'm like, there's audio that literally says she's absolutely not going to vote for any Democrat. Especially Biden. I don't know how she can get away with saying this. They didn't even push back on it. No,
they didn't. And I was like, but when that situation happened, that kind of told, like, it went from, okay, I can't trust AOC to like, oh shit, AOC is probably borderline sociopathic. That's where I realized, I'm like, I don't even know how to explain it. There was, I don't trust somebody. It doesn't mean I think you're necessarily evil. I just think, this person's selfish and like, but there's a level of just psychopathy and sociopathy that you have to be running on a platform of basically being a woman of color. And then you turn around and are like, the one situation where that would actually be the most beneficial demographic to be in while you're defending a person like you, she's like, actually, I'm going to defend the rapist instead because my career is that much more important. Yep. That is evil, actually. That is like, I don't know what else. People are like, well, she's a good person, just makes some bad decisions. No. I know what those look like. That's not her. That's evil and selfish. And it helped me really open my eyes to just, and a lot of other people, like, to just what we were dealing with. And one of the biggest regrets in my life is that I saved that bitch's career. I'm so upset about it. Some people know this if they watch my show.
No,
I was the one, first viral interview, not the first one. After AOC started getting hammered in the media after she won her primary, because she literally didn't know anything about politics, which makes her winning her primary even crazier, honestly. Like, they were looking for help trying to get her right for interviews to anticipate the questions that she was getting. That one CNN interview she got where they asked her, well, how are you going to pay for all this? And then I told her to say, well, to ask them, like, well, just ask how they're paying for all the wars. How about we just take some of that money and pay for healthcare instead? And the whole spiel that she did, like that went viral, that was me who gave her that.
Oh my God.
And I was, I was working with VG, her former campaign manager. I was working, I want to say Doug, her communications director at the time. And literally I was feeding her answers.
Wow.
Like feeding her, and because she had no fucking idea what she was talking about.
Right.
And at first, I didn't ask for any money from him. I'm just like, oh man, no. Like if she's gonna get in Congress to do the right thing, it's absolutely worth it, right? Lo and behold, probably one of the worst decisions of my damn life. Like,
so like, you didn't get the gala Met invitation.
Met gala invitation. I know, which is kind of messed up because I'm definitely more fashionable than AOC is, for sure, 100%. I didn't get the Met Gala invitation. I damn sure didn't get somebody to write all over a perfectly nice dress. And I don't get no Vanity Fair covers, none of that, man. No Vanity Fair covers. But it's like it's lessons in life that you have to learn. And I try to I try not to let negative experiences from my past influence how I treat people going forward in the future. Like, you don't ever want anybody to knock you. That's one thing I learned from Tulsi. I try to let anybody knock me off my center anymore. Because that was very frustrating at first when I had very genuine intentions with a lot of the people that I had helped, and I didn't realize they were taking advantage of me. Even if, it could be something maybe that innocuous to somebody, but like there were people that would, because I wasn't as popular back in the day, but all the major players knew me. They were coming to me, asking me for advice, asking me for my analysis. And instead of having me on their show to talk about it, they would go on and talk about it themselves and pretend like it was their idea that they had, even though like it's a super specific thing. Like, for example, I was actually the one who broke the Hillary Victory Fund information. TYT took credit for it in NBD, and they said they got the story from Politico. That's actually not true. I gave the information to Jordan Sheridan. Jordan Sheridan said it was bullshit, even though it was not, because I got the information directly from the North Carolina treasurer former North Carolina treasurer for the Democratic Party. And the next morning, the story breaks. Right. With no background as to how they figured out this super complex a web of like finances all over the country. Cause like I literally spent hours doing it, and I had a whole research team dedicated to exposing this. And I was in Jared and Liz's office actually at the time when I was talking to Jordan, and he told me there was nothing there. And then TYT took the story and ran with it. And then once that story blows up with Donna Brazile and she confirmed that it's true, Jordan and TYT actually took the credit for it, and then no one ever mentioned it. And then even with the DNC fraud lawsuit, there are people literally like even claiming credit for the lawsuit, which is super weird, even though Jared Liz constantly corrected him. And even in his book, he's like, yeah, actually this lawsuit wouldn't be a thing without Niko. Niko's the one who found us, and he was the one who broke the story, and it was all his analysis, and he's the one who figured all this shit out. And everybody was like, yeah, but man, this person used to cover it a lot. I'm like, they're like, well, yeah, we told y'all to interview Niko. Y'all literally refused to. So because at the time, at a time where a lot of people were just talking and talking and talking and talking, I was the only one who was in this particular space. But like, I was just so tired of people just sitting around and fucking talking all day. And I was like, I'm just going to do something about it. Is that cool, everybody? Okay. So I'm going to do something. And that gave that when you actually are one of the ones who are willing to get up and do something about it, and you know what you're talking about, that makes you particularly dangerous to those who bullshit for a career. And that's because I had the experience. I was actually doing the shit and I knew my stuff, and that made me a target. That's why I was getting attacked by leftists for not voting for Biden and being very clear as to why I'm not doing it. Selfishly, for the first reason is I'm Black. Joe Biden hates Black people. I don't know why this is a very complicated situation. Like I shouldn't even have to keep talking after I give that reason, because it's well documented. But I was being attacked for telling people that, because there was a narrative out there that Black people were supposed to vote for Biden. And if all the white neo-progressives out there are like, well, no. Black people, he's way better for Black people than Trump is. And I'm like, no, they both suck for Black people. I don't know why we're even having this conversation. They both suck for Black people. Biden actually, unfortunately, though, has been way worse. Why? I'm saying that if I am a Black person and I've been proven to know what I'm talking about, that makes me a direct threat to those whose income solely relies on getting views from bullshitting people and lying to them and then pretending to be outraged the moment that like Biden does exactly what we expect.
Right. Which is he's made some amazing gaffes. And yeah, and as you know from me being on your show, he has a history of being racist. Back when I worked for him, I remember I had to meet with the chief of staff to ask for diversity with the interns because they were just hiring kids, specifically sons of board members on Bristol Myers, you know, like Bristol Myers Squibb and like DuPont. And so the DuPont board had their kids go for their internships, you know, to get connections and whatever. And like,
that's how it works.
Yeah. And they were all very, very wealthy. I mean, this is how wealthy. One of the kids had a suit that was custom made, delivered to the office by their parents, you know, and yeah, like that kind of, we're talking that kind of, you know, it was, and he was very, well, you heard his remarks about Obama. Like he was low-key racist.
He was a good black one.
Yeah, like
you know,
I mean, and Obama,
like, hold up, did he think that was a compliment? Even Obama knew how racist he was, man. Like even Obama, like, bro, you do not run. How do you feel about it now? He shouldn't run. I still feel the same. Like he sucked it up and took a bully and supported Hillary when everybody and their mama who's in politics and who's in DC knows Obama, both of the Obamas, they despise Hillary. They despise that woman and still swallow their pride and endorse her for mostly because it was pride to protect his legacy, because if she got exposed, inevitably he would too. But until he literally announced that he was going to run, Obama was like, no, don't do it. Don't do it. Would you support him?
Right.
But he shouldn't do it though. I have to, I guess. But he shouldn't do it, you know? So that tells you a lot.
Yeah, it does. I mean, and the stuff that's come out about Bill Clinton, and it's amazing how they protect him and the Obamas. Well, and I don't know if you heard about this, but you know, my nemesis, Tina Chen from the Time's Up Legal Defense Fund, Tina Chen and Hillary Rose and all of that group, right? Okay. That got dismantled and exposed for what they did, which is they were a catch and kill for powerful men, and including Joe Biden. They did a how-to
under the guise of protecting women. It was made it so fucking horrible.
One of the last conversations I had with them was they were trying to get names of other accusers from me, right?
Really?
And yeah. And anyway, so they were exposed.
Oh my God. Do you know that the woman, I know this is gonna sound crazy, but you know that what's her name? Harvey Weinstein's like former executive assistant, I guess, and lawyer that was advising him.
Lisa Bloom.
Do you know like her people are the ones behind the Deshaun Watson case too?
No.
Yeah. Well, you know that Deshaun Watson pissed off a bunch of so the whole story behind that is that the Texans screwed him over massively, and they were basically outed as being racist to the point where JJ Watt, who was like a lifetime Texan and was probably going to have his jersey retired there, but he got caught on camera with the microphone apologizing to Deshaun Watson for wasting his season, and he said they I'm sorry that they did this to you, man. Like it was super sad. Everybody's like, what the hell's going on there? Then JJ Watt leaves the team, and then Deshaun Watson and everybody leaves the team. Like DeAndre Hopkins leaves, who's their best wide receiver, and then Deshaun Watson's like, I'm out. I'm not going to play another down for the Texans. And then all of a sudden, all of these cases come out of nowhere, and all of sports media gets behind the narrative. And I'm like, hold on, well, we don't even know what happened, because it's kind of, nobody thinks it's a coincidence. I remember that Ben Roethlisberger raped somebody and no one said anything about it. I distinctly remember being there, like for that. So all the girls come out at once, and I'm like, yo, this kind of seems like a really familiar process, but I don't think that Lisa Bloom would be behind this, right? Because that's nope, just kidding. Nope, she's right there, of course. And so then you start finding out the Texans, a lot of the massage therapists that Deshaun had been working with, like the randomness of the therapists were actually because the Texans were the ones primarily hiring them and giving them to him, because he's like traveling all the time. He's always getting hit. Mostly because that's their fault. They had a sorry offensive line. That's a different conversation. Anyway, and like, so all this stuff starts coming out, and everybody's like, wow, is Deshaun Watson going to be able to play this year? And it's like getting blown up. And then some of the discovery phase happens, and they're like, hold on, The Texans were providing the massage therapist. Well, that's a little bit weird, don't you think? And then some of the women got caught apologizing to Deshaun Watson directly because they were the ones inappropriately touching him. And he had to say something about it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You know, it's interesting.
Which is why he got signed this year, despite all the hullabaloo going on.
Yeah.
And you know how Lisa Bloom was behind it? Because when he got signed, in the midst of all this, he got signed to the largest contract in history, guaranteed like $230 or $240 million. And then like immediately HBO puts a documentary together with all the women immediately, like the next day. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's definitely some Lisa Bloom shit. That's because that's how CAA rolls, yo. That's how they do business. They will control the narrative to hella high water, no matter how much the facts are against them.
Well, and you know that's what Rose McGowan said. I mean, Rose McGowan talked about that CAA was running the show. And then you saw Lisa Bloom tweeted about my case, and she said, "We believe you, Tara Reade. We know that Joe Biden is handsy, but we're going to vote for him anyway." She literally put that tweet. Yeah. She was one of the founders of Time's Up. And after getting exposed for all the corruption, for the malfeasance, because remember, they got caught with emails between Cuomo aides, right? Mm-hmm. And Time's Up, talking about how to smear survivors. They used my case as an example and said, well, look at Biden with Tara Reade. Now you can just victim shame on the record. And so that tweet came out in the criminal thing. Well, so
that's why he was forced to resign eventually, right? Like, because Cuomo got caught. She was
forced to resign. Tina ended up going from Time's Up Legal Defense. She ended up going to Biden's. She was his White House senior advisor. And then now the Obama Foundation just appointed her last week as vice president of the Obama Foundation.
Oh, so right. Hey, listen,
here we are,
if you want to fall up, you join the Democratic Party, bro. I promise you. Because I know there's some kid out there looking like, man, anybody really can be president if you want it bad enough. Because like they're looking at Biden like, bruh, my mom's getting on me for getting C's. Joe Biden is shaking hands with the air. I think that me getting C's should be celebrated at this point. If this man shaking hands with the air, becoming president. Right. But what it should tell people though, is that so we know all of Joe Biden's history. We had 47 years of it. Okay. We all the information was out there. I mean, he was a number one target by the other Democrats during the primary for a reason. It was because he was the easiest target to hit. Right. I mean, it's literally like shooting water into the ocean. Literally, it was that easy. And yet, and still, somehow, he fails his way to the top. Man had to drop out of a presidential race before.
He doesn't have a constituency. There's people don't really like him, and that they never did.
But yet, he won. I mean, even the people who voted for him are like, you know. And by the way, that's very few and far between. Like usually, in obviously like New York, California, I meet people who voted for him. Like people I would expect a lot of times, but there were way more people who didn't vote for him that started making me be like, oh, there's a lot. I talk to a lot of people, obviously, about politics, and I'm constantly interacting with hundreds of people a day in one form or another. And you just see some people like, I was a Democrat. I didn't vote for him, though. Actually, I switched affiliation, or I am a Democrat, but I would never vote for him, even though I might have voted for other congressional members. And you start seeing this pattern, and then you see the way that the questioning of the elections got shamed. Because for me, the reaction by the media, the mainstream media, whenever something is brought to their attention, lets me know how legitimate or illegitimate the possibility of it being true is. And when Trump talked about the election, first of all, the election night was wild because I stayed up basically the whole night. And I watched the numbers be manipulated like in real time. I can't even really go into all of it right now, but we watched things happen in Michigan and Wisconsin, and we were on the phone trying to understand, like, hold up, we've never seen this before. And literally my team, especially Pasta and Fiorella and Johnny at this point on the combo couch, shout out to them. They're great. Election integrity is what we do. Yeah. Like that's like that's how I got into this space. This is, and they travel all over, like literally they literally travel all over the world now. All over the world. Like this is what we do. And my issue was the way that it was dismissed by even some leftists or progressives because it was like, oh, well, that means you support Trump. I'm like, no, I'm not saying, because my thing isn't even about the Trump Biden race at that point. But if you begin rigging that, necessarily the Senate races get rigged immediately, because that's the same people voting. You get situations like Tim Canova, where he gets screwed over and is able to succeed because who was benefiting at the time, whether it be at the federal level or the state level. Like, that's the stuff that we're thinking about, but that people don't ever take into consideration because somehow
they're voting the ticket. They're voting the ticket. Yeah.
Exactly. And so whenever you have a situation like what happened this last election, where people were able to get dismissed because they're like, well, the courts, courts dismissed it. So I don't see what the issue is. That's some pretty fallacious logic, because if you know how federal judges work, you would know that in order for, because they had to get an audit. That's what he was trying to get for the majority of those cases. You can't tell me, well, if the court thought it was serious, and it would, first of all, if you're a leftist, I don't want to ever hear that as a justification for anything. Because you know how fucked up the justice system is. I shouldn't have to explain this to you. Why would you just accept what they say on its face? So that's the first thing. Second of all, to be a federal judge, which it's weird, it shouldn't be the case. It's actually probably by design that it is this way. But to be a federal judge, you get appointed. To be a U.S. attorney, you get appointed. They understand just how corrupt this political system is. They know that even if they do grant the audit, that it might not even get audited correctly. Because guess who counts the votes? Whatever party's in goddamn charge. That's what happens. That's how this works. Okay, so you're telling me you want a bunch of federal judges whose jobs exist by appointments to piss off their next boss. That's what you're asking them to do. Yeah, because Biden he was the anointed one. Yep. He was the one that was going to win regardless. And for them to even ask to say, which is weird, right? Because you would think everything should be audited, right? It's why we want to make sure our elections are correct. Well, no, they don't. They don't want that at all. They get exposed that way. And so if you're asking federal judges to piss off their next boss, and that is where we get into like really murky territory on like, okay, so how popular is Biden? And if this man is this wildly unpopular, and on the other side of this fence, Trump somehow managed to increase his voting demographic amongst or his voter turnout amongst every single demographic except for white men, which is super weird, right? If that could happen and he could break all these records for an incumbent, what the fuck is going on with our electoral system? Maybe we should be asking that question. Like something's broken. And nobody wants to ask why. Because if you start asking that question, you might not be able to get another Biden in office if you're a Democratic Party. Because they didn't even want him. I'm assuming they were settling because Kamala got destroyed so early on. But you don't get that Kamala didn't work. But like all the other people just weren't popular enough at all. Then you're settling for Biden because you're relying on the same narrative that they rely on with Hillary. Oh, they went off of name recognition and how much they dislike Trump. When I don't think that was the case. I think that Biden was actually massively unpopular, and I'm not quite sure he won. I can't say for a fact. That doesn't mean, by the way, people, that I don't think Trump and the Republican Party didn't try to cheat. I think that both parties tried to cheat. I just think that it's particular time Democrats probably cheated better. I mean, at the end of the day. And so that's something else that I think that we have to consider. Because like you said, Biden is wildly unpopular. Yeah. It didn't just start either. It got worse, but it didn't just start today.
You're right. You bring up some really good points about the brokenness of the electoral system right now. And and it's ironic that we send election watchers to other countries. Meanwhile, we're engaging in kind of this kind of, very dysfunctional system.